like to do. I'm wearing one right now, and I'm working on one actually. This one, and actually, so I added some buttons to these. If you take a look here, these buttons, let me see if I can get closer into the camera. So these buttons are like little buttons that I got from, I think I got these on like Etsy or something like that. But these are like the old historical buttons. I think they are from the early 1900s, and you don't even have to sew them on. You just kind of like pop them in and out. So basically, it's like how they used to do cufflinks and stuff. If you can see that, I just kind of, just kind of stick it in there. It goes through that way. And then they're perfect. They're so nice just to add like a nice little touch to some of your knitting and things like that. Um, so this is part two. I've been working on a sweater. This was the original design that I'm trying to copy. This is like, I think this is probably some, I don't know if this is like really from whatever era. It may be just from the 70s, like an old Gunny Sacks dress or something. Maybe not Gunny Sacks, I don't know, but something like that. But I'm trying to recreate this and get as close as I can as possible. So if you saw the other video, I just kind of had like the top collar done. But now I've added, oh, hey, Susan. Oh, you back here? You didn't know about, oh yeah. Oh good. Listen, yes, we can talk about knitting. Knitting is like really something that I did. I learned when I was like maybe 8 or 9 in like Michigan, and there were two basic steps, but I only learned the first step. My friend's mom was supposed to teach me the other step, and she didn't. So I mean, I knew how to do like the basic first step, but once I got into my 30s, it's like it's a modern era. Now you have YouTube, because I tried with the crochet, but like crocheting for me was a little bit too bulky. I didn't really like it. And I want, listen, you all know me, I like fashion, honey. So I wanted to, wear some fashion. Oh, and by the way, Susan, I just caught your comment as we were walking out, as we were clicking off, and when you said you were glad that you found my channel. And I want to say thank you so much. That was so kind of you, but I didn't want to ignore you. But I was like, oh, if she's on next week, I'll tell her I didn't expect to see you on the channel. So thank you for that. I'm glad to have you here. Welcome to my home. So yeah, now we went from trash reality show to knitting, and basically, yeah, so now I'm working on this one here. So this is going to be like a higher neck version of what I have now. So I've completed the collar, and I'm on the sleeves. Last night I just got to the very bottom portion, and this is going to fold over in the back. I got to put some buttons on there and make it like that. Now this is more for, it's a slightly more advanced level, obviously, but anybody can start off with like a really, really basic sweater. I mean, the real basics, but you just got to learn your basic knit and purl if you haven't quite gotten to that stage, which you can find on YouTube. Or, I mean, it depends on like how you are. Maybe you're still scared of COVID or whatever. You can just do it online, or you can go to like your local knitting store, as they usually have little knitting circles where people can get together and they can, you can kind of get tips and stuff like that. But if you look, you just like, everything is Googleable, right? You can look up, you know, basic sweaters or basic scarves. Most people usually don't jump into the deep end with sweaters like I did. I was like, oh no, if I'm going to be knitting, it better be something fabulous, right? But most people will start off with like a scarf or like some mittens or something like that. But it'll, or a little hat. It's all up to you. But, yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can do. I live in Seattle, and over here we have was something I didn't know about Seattle before I moved here. We have a huge knitting community here. There's a lot of yarn stores and stuff like that. So, it's kind of, there's a large, we have a large Norwegian American population that's been here for like 100 or so years. So, I think they brought a lot of that with them, and hence like all the, this knitting culture that's here. So a lot of good books and things like that. But, I basically just want to turn this right here. Hopefully by next week, not by next week, definitely by next week, I'll have it done. The body will be done. So here, let me move back so you can see. So the body will be done. And then once I get to the very bottom, and I don't make them very tall, I don't make them very long. I'll show you what I'm wearing now. Make sure my fly is. So I don't make them very long. I just keep them, like a nice crop length. And if I'm wearing, usually I wear high-waisted pants, so that's okay to be at the true waist. And that's another way to save money because you don't want to spend too much money on yarn. But that's your preference on how long you would like to make it. And I'm hoping to see what I can do with this ribbon detail here because it's a little bit more difficult to take something from fabric to fiber, right? And get this kind of like this little. I didn't do the opening in the begin up here because I was like, that was more like a level of difficulty I just didn't want to deal with. I said I can always just add buttons and make it fancy at the end of the day. But the challenge is going to be is getting this big ruffle, this big huge ruffle here, which I'll do with yarn, but maybe I'll add a little bit of ribbon, because you can add. So for example, if you do certain stitches where you add like little lace, here, like little lace features, you can take ribbon and you can kind of floss it in and out. So then now you can have like a new little, but basically this will be, oh, my little balls of yarn are falling, but basically something like that. Now this right here is a mohair. Oh, I forgot to mention that. This is a mohair and I do not remember the name of it because I got it off of Amazon, which I get really afraid of buying yarn online. Have you guys ever done that? Because when you buy yarn online, sometimes you get it in the mail and you're like, oh my God, what is that? And there's also debates between, some people like, oh, should I only, because if you go to like your local Joann's or something, then you can get like that like cheap acrylic yarn. And a lot of people will do that for like beginning yarn projects, learning how to make blankets and stuff like that. And I highly recommend that just to get yourself started if you're a beginner knitter. But I even have other pieces that I do where I'll do a design up here, like some color work, kind of looks like a Fair Isle or like a Norwegian type sweater, and then the rest of the arms and then the body I'll do like in the cheaper yarn because it gets really expensive when you're buying like a whole bunch of different colors. So it's good to start off with just one color if you're just getting started. But what else was I gonna say about the yarn? So yeah, like also too when like when it comes down to getting a pattern. So basically this particular sweater that I'm working on now is based off of a pattern, but I've far abandoned some of the principles of the pattern and kind of put in some of my own stuff, but it's still foundationally from a pattern, but now it's like in my head I've changed. I don't have to look at it anymore. I know how to do the neck. I know how many stitches. You get to know your body. If it's something that you do all the time, you can kind of know, like, you can do sweaters without basically you can do it without an instruction, basically, without an instruction manual after a while. I mean, you really can. Sweaters used to be like much more simple, but I just like them to be fun and to be elaborate and like have all this extra business. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of makes you feel, a little fun or something like that. And it keeps you warm. So like this particular one that I did, this I just used I think this is a combination. um I want to say it's an alpaca mixed with a merino, and then I did the fringe only or the ruffle only in a mohair, but this time I decided to do a full-on mohair. Now, the thing is when you do mohair, you see how see-through that is, right? So you figure, now who is going to be warm in the winter with that thing on? What is that if you do a whole sweater like that? So what I decided to do with this particular one is that so you can see my hand through this, right? This is a very thin sweater, but then I started to I doubled up the yarn in the sleeve. So you see how thick it is? See how you cannot see my hand through here, but you can see my hand through here? See the difference? So basically I took 2 strands for the arms, and now I'm on the body because I want to be cold. So all this here, you can see these are 2 different, 1 layer, 2 layers. So it's a way to kind of like, have some fun, but still be functional, because you don't want to spend all this money on this yarn. You got this cute little sweater that you can only wear 1 day out of the year because it's got to be like the magical, like, just at 63 degrees. Otherwise you'll be too cold or you're too hot or something like that. And then there's also the consideration of like itchiness. Like if your skin is sensitive, do you tend to get itchy? If you do, then you may have to step up, what should I say? the quality of the yarn that you buy. You got to get more like the, very soft stuff, and that can get very, very pricey, and you wind up with a very, boutique yet thin sweater. So anyway, yeah, I mean, that's all that I'm doing right now with that, and I'm hoping to maybe have everything completed within the next maybe week and a half. It's just something I like to do in my spare time. If you guys are working on any projects right now, let me know what you're working on. Do you have any particular fibers that you tend to gravitate more towards? We're coming up soon. Well, we're still in winter, but in the springtime, I wear sweaters as well. Even though it's, I live in a colder part of the country, and even when it gets really warm outside, I make sleeveless sweaters. And what I do is I use very thin, more cotton-based yarns, so it can be like almost like a little bit thicker than a t-shirt. And those are great for the summer. So sweaters do not have to be like something that you only do in the winter time. There are wonderful, wonderful other fibers. So when I make my next video, featuring sweaters, I will wear another sweater or at least, I don't know if I'll wear it or not for the video, but at least I'll show you an example of a sweater that I have that is technically a sweater, but really it's just something that you can wear like in the springtime or in the summertime as well. But anyway, that's it. I mean, what can I say more about this little project of mine? I will be busy watching television, bringing you reviews, bringing you yarn, and talking trash. Anyway, I hope you guys are staying safe. Please take care. I'll see you next week. Ci pisalacio.